What is going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So it's been quite a while since we've done anything with the truck, but we've got a few things we can work on today, so I figured we'd go ahead and bring you guys along for the ride. So as a lot of you guys might know, we do have the Mid-South LED switchback cab lights on this truck. Kind of hard to see because it's daytime. And then we've also got the mirror lights and the door handle lights. They are all switchbacks, and the mirrors are sequential switchbacks, so they look pretty sweet at night. And before we get into the video, I do want to go ahead and mention that I have reached out to Mid-South LED. They no longer sell this exact model of mirror light because they had issues with it in the past. So I did talk to them, and they said that I could send these in and we could work something out. But for the time being, I think we're just going to go ahead and pop them out, see if we can get them dried out and resealed and get them back in. So today's video is going to be uninstalling and installing the switchback mirror lights on the 2017 GMC 3500. So let's go ahead, get through the intro, and jump right into the video. Alright guys, so now that we've gotten through the intro, let's go ahead and take a look at what we're working with. So over here on the driver's side, you can see this one's not bad. It's got a little bit of moisture up in it, but it's not nearly as bad as the other side. So over here on the other side, we've got a whole bunch of water in it. This one's full halfway up, and it was even worse after a bad rain, but some of it must have drained out a little bit. So we're going to start on this one, and all you're really going to need to do this is a T15 Torx bit, which we've got right here, and then we're going to have to pop the mirrors off, and then we will start taking the coverings off, and then we can get to the light itself. So let's go ahead and get some cameras set up and get to work. Alright guys, first thing we're going to want to do is make sure your tow mirror is pulled all the way out manually, and then we're going to push up on the top here. And then we're going to want to push up on the bottom of this mirror till you hear it click. And we can tilt it down a little bit so we can get our fingers in there so that you can get that out. And then there's a plug back here. Not sure if you guys can see it, but there's one right here. Just like so. And now you will have two plugs that you need to disconnect for the heated mirror control. Once you get those disconnected, we can go ahead and set the upper mirror aside and move on to the lower mirror. Alright, now once we get that all out of the way, we're going to want to grab this, put your thumbs down at the bottom, and pull up at the top. Ours was glued on from a previous issue with it, which is fine. It's probably what we'll have to do again, but you should be able to just pull here with your thumbs down here and it should pop. Like so. And then there are 5 T15 Torx screws that need to come out so that we can remove the mirror backing shroud. Now we need to tilt the mirror motor up and to the left so that we can pull the mirror backing shroud out. We are going to want to tilt it forward so that you can access the rear-facing cargo lamps. Once you get that unplugged, we can go ahead and set the whole assembly to the side. On the passenger side mirror, you will find a temperature sensor. We need to disconnect it by sliding the gray tab back, pushing down on the tab, and disconnecting the plug. Now we need to remove the lower mirror cover. We need to release the plastic clips, and then pull down and forward gently, and it will relatively easily disconnect from the rest of the mirror body. So this is where our system might be a little bit different than what you guys are running, but on the factory mirror light, you will have a plug located right in here on the back side of the light itself, which you will need to disconnect to uninstall this light. On our system, we are still using the older style Mid-South LEDs, and those use a LED controller, which you can see right here. but the principles are still the same. So nonetheless, we're going to have to go ahead and disconnect the plugs for the mirror so that we can get it out of our way. Now we need to remove the two T15 Torx head screws that hold the actual light in place. Once the screws are removed, you can gently pull forward on the upper mirror cover and start sliding the light out of its location. Once we got our light out and it was still full of water, I wanted to carefully inspect it so that we could try to locate the worst portions of the leak so that we knew what we had to address when we were putting it back together. As you can see, most of it was coming out of that outer corner, and I tilted it around in circles, as you can see here, and that end seemed to be the only spot where the water would actually pour out. Alright guys, so we are at the bench with the passenger side mirror light here. We dumped the water out of it. I kind of moved it around like this, and it seemed like 90% of the water was coming out right here. And after we got it off, I could see why. You can see that there was a little gap there, and it still lifts. So we're going to wedge it open just like that for now, and use this heat gun, and just kind of work the light back and forth, and then try to blow some heat up in there, and just try to get this thing to dry out a little bit. Once we get it to dry out, then we can worry about sealing it up. But number one concern is getting it to fully dry out. So let's work on that for a little while, and then we can figure out what we want to do to reseal it. Got my temp gun set on 200. As you can see, it already took some of the steam out of it. Now the biggest thing is going to be getting those water drops out. Alright guys, so we were using the heat gun to try to dry that light out, but it was just taking forever. So I went ahead and made something I'm going to call my Easy Bake Oven. And as you can see, it's just a couple aluminum pans taped together with a thermometer up top and the heat gun blowing into a pipe blowing in there. And I got a little piece in there to divert the heat so it's not blowing right on the light. So we're gonna let that one sit like that for a little while. We did get the driver's side one out as well, and we'll let that sit in there for a while and try to get some of that moisture out of it, and then we might bring them inside for the night, let them sit by the heat, and just dry out even a little bit more before we try to reseal them hopefully tomorrow. So let's let these run for a little while, and then we'll bring them inside and get back at it tomorrow and see if we can get these things sealed up. Alright guys, so it is the next day. We used our oven with the heat gun on like 200-ish in here for about an hour. And then when I went inside last night, I brought this in with me. We have a little electric fireplace thing that we use before we start the wood stove, before it gets cold enough to start the wood stove. And I had this sitting in front of it pretty much all night with the electric fireplace set to kick on and off. And I had this pipe basically just chilling right in front of the outlet, and it worked really well. It maintained this at about 140 degrees almost all night long, so that worked really well. And as you can see, I ended up throwing both lights in it when we had it upstairs all night, and they cleaned up really well. They seem to be perfectly dry inside. All the moisture seems to be out of them. I was mainly worried about the one on the passenger side because it had standing water in it for so long. I was afraid everything was just soaked in here. But I think we got all that moisture out, so we should be good to go as far as that is concerned. Let's get them cleaned up and then figure out what we want to do to seal them. So what we're going to do before we try sealing it is I've got a little bit of super glue here, and I'm going to just see how it works. I want to try it out. We're going to put some super glue along this seam, and then I'm going to use a clamp to hold that, and we'll let that cure while we work on the other mirror light, getting the other one sealed up since it wasn't as bad. Then once this super glue cures, we'll come back and do some sealant over it. So let's get this one sealed up. Alright, we got super glue on there, and now I'm just going to go ahead and squeeze it down. Sorry, that was probably pretty out of view for that camera, but I couldn't see it. We're just going to put a little bit extra glue along this seam right here. And then I'm just going to take an extra clamp Now we're just going to let this sit for a while and let this one harden up, let the super glue cure, and while we let that do its thing, we'll grab this one and start sealing it up. I'm just working my way around with some black RTV. That's what I decided to use. I've just got some ultra black right here that we're using, and this one was on the driver's side, so it wasn't as bad. So I'm kind of just feathering it right around here, making sure that it's sealed, but not going overly crazy. When we get to the other one, we'll have to do a little bit more to it because that one was leaking real bad. Alright guys, so this is obviously the passenger side one. Still letting that super glue set up a little bit longer. But as you can see with this one, around the wires is a bigger issue than on the other one. It's got like a gooey putty on the other one that stays soft. This one's been resealed, so it's got like RTV. So what we're going to do is I'm going to flip it this way, pack it in here, then flip it this way and tape it right there because that's where it goes when you put it on anyways. And then we'll pack this with RTV as well and let that set while we start sealing up around the rest of the light. So let's go ahead and get this one sealed up. Alright guys, so we are finally ready to start reinstalling these mirror lights. We also cleaned up the lower mirror covers as well. They cleaned up pretty good. But as you can see, we got these things all sealed up. This is the end that we had to glue down, and then we RTV'd over it and RTV'd around the whole thing. It came out pretty decent. We used the black RTV. I'm hoping that it holds up pretty good, but we'll just have to wait and see. So let's go ahead and get these things ready to go back on the truck. It is raining here today, which kind of sucks. I'm hoping that we can get the camera set up to work out properly for us. But as you can see, we had an old umbrella from the deck laying around and a base. So I brought that over here and made that work for us. And we're just gonna try to keep it dry as we start putting this thing back together. So let's get these lights on. Let's put it back in the same way that we took it out. We're gonna have to pull back on this a little bit. Feed the light in kind of like so. I'm going to throw a couple screws in it right here. Make sure we're flush on the back side here. I'm going to route these. I'm going to route them behind these wires because I know those are their factory and they're not hitting. So they've got to be in a decent spot. I like to use a little bit of dielectric grease on any connection that is going to be exposed to the elements. It just helps insulate it and keep water out, which helps prevent corrosion. So we're just going to put a little bit on each of the plugs before we go ahead and plug the power wires back into our mirror light. Alright guys, so we can start putting the lower mirror cover back together, the one that has the temp sensor in it. So you got to line it up kind of. And then it'll just kind of clip into place with these clips that we had to undo. It's actually rather easy to put on. And then we can go ahead and plug our temp sensor back in. Then slide the lock pin. Make sure it doesn't pull off. So that is now good. Now we can grab our backing shroud and plug in our rear-facing cargo lamps. Once we get those plugged in, we can set the shroud in place. Make sure we have the wires we need coming through and no wires behind are being pinched. Then we can install our 5 T15 Torx head screws. Now is a great time to check our work and make sure that the running lights and the switchback lights are working as they should. Alright, so now we can go ahead and tilt this downward like so. and also plug our plugs for the mirror, the heater back in. So we're going to plug those in quick. And then you've got your signal for the back side of the mirror. We can go ahead and plug that one in as well. Alright, and now to get the mirror on, you're going to have these little metal tabs right here that are going to have to go, in our case, around the mirror, but there are some where it like slides onto this mirror motor. Ours just go around the big round piece. So we're going to start up high. You should feel it drop into place. And then once you feel it in, you just push down. And then it should clip in like so. And now that mirror is back on and ready to rip. For this one, it just simply snaps in place. Just like we took it off, you just center it up and get it to line up where it needs to be. And then you just push and it'll clip on. Like I said, for us, we're gonna use a little bit of silicone because ours have been off numerous times and they finally broke. We decided to use some ultra clear silicone. We have used it in the past with success, so that's what we're going to use here. Now I just aligned the remaining clips, and I'm going to use a clamp to hold the mirror in place securely until the silicone cures. Once it's cured, we will wait for nightfall, and we will try these lights out and see how they look.
Whoa! Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. That to me, you really playing with your life. I'm about to come and run it all back. I'm the new era, about to snap back. You ain't fitting for it, cause you all cap like. Hold up, I shoot my shot, wait, hold up. I'm really about to run this go up. You know it's all net when it go up. Ain't got no other plans, you don't need to understand, ayy. We on overtime, you don't need to understand, ayy. You just show them how to do it when you don't know what to say. Tell me how you plan to win if you plan to play it safe. Moving fast, already gone, yeah, but you bringing me back. Try to double cross me, dog, just let me relax.
Well guys, it looks like we've got our moisture issues with the mirror lights under control. Hopefully they hang in there for the foreseeable future. This procedure would be the same for pretty much any light you've got to dry out, whether it's a headlight, tail light, fog light, anything should be pretty much the same. Dry it out, seal it up, and put it right back into service. So as always, I appreciate you guys for checking out the channel. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that bell, and we will catch you on the next one.
Bye.